Hello, Rob here from the Flanagan Homestead. Today is the day I'm going to start getting more grass growing on my pastures where the brush has been cleared out on my sheep and goat pasture. It's the time of the year that's the right time to do this, and also I need some more. So I'm going to explain what I'm doing here today. I have some pasture grass seed that I'm going to be throwing where the blackberries have been cleared out, and I'm going to be sharing stories on how I have converted this hill from blackberries to grass. Therefore, also I am going from less and less goats to more and more sheep. I had 23 goats on this property last year, which was about the maximum that it could maintain, but they've been clearing out the blackberries and we've been putting grass seed down, and so we're getting more and more grass, and the sheep actually graze better on the grass than the goats, and the sheep taste better, to be honest. So we're getting less goats and more sheep. And just in case you're getting into sheep and goats, I'm going to show you the property that I have here in a little bit, and how I'm going to plant this and what it looks like and how it looks. And as I walk across the field, show you some things that have changed over the years and that might give you some ideas for when you're trying to raise your herd. So my goat story starts nearly 30 years ago. We have fairly steep property. You can see my house up there. And then we're on a steep hillside here where my septic drain field was, and some other property that I'm supposed to keep clear. So it would grow up with blackberries very quickly every year. I would bring the weed whacker out, knock everything down, and then a few months later have to do it again. So finally I got some goats, and the goats have kept the blackberries down. We planted pasture grass on it, and that's great. But if you could see the little wood structure right there in the distance, that's my property line on this side, which is fairly close. And so I couldn't, as I became more and more of a fan of goats, one, I was making a pretty good profit selling off the young kids as I was breeding them. And the other thing is I have a Christmas tree farm and I take goats to the petting zoo. People love young goats. So I wanted to have more animals, and so it's hard to see, but down in the canyon there is a creek, and then we come up the other side, and I created some pasture over there, but it's hard to take care of the animals and go through that pasture all the time. So I was sitting there pondering, going, boy, I'd like to get more goats. You know, at the time I could only run 5 or 6 effectively, but I said I need more land. And just a couple days later, my neighbor came over and said, hey, would you mind running goats on my property? I'm tired of weeding, knocking everything down with a weed eater every year, and would you run the goats there? So his property has significantly more land that's easy to access, and so we started doing that, and I'm going to show you some of that here. So here's the trail that the animals take every day. Here's the old barbed wire fence, which is not good enough to hold goats by any means, and then it's got chicken wire in between it. But we don't care that it's not that strong for holding goats, because we want them to go here. But this was the type of fence I built as a rookie many years ago. It will not hold goats if they want to go out, but it is strong enough that I could keep them apart, keep them in pastures for a day or two. So I'm on my neighbor's property following the trail, and this entire area was also covered with blackberries. And so we just started letting the goats out, and they ate this down, and we've spread pasture grass, so now we're getting grass grow here. There's some green here because you probably might be able to see the hose on the ground. I was irrigating this towards the late summer. I can't get irrigation any further over here, and the neighbors don't have enough water in their well to put into irrigation, so most of this is going to be dried out. And then originally we came to this point, and you can see another fence. We got a nice better sheep goat fence here with the proper material, 4x4, and it's a nice straight fence down there and up towards their property. But again, we have another hole right here, so when we want, I can swing this gate shut and divide them up into paddocks, and I can keep them. I've currently got 3 different sections, 3 different paddocks that I can put animals in and keep them apart. And so we're continuing to walk over here. This again was all blackberries and weeds underneath here, but the sheep and the goats, you can see, have just mowed this down. This is no mechanical human mowing. This is, and if you know the Pacific Northwest, I'll show you what it looks like if there's not something keeping the weeds down. But this is the area that we're coming up on over here that we want to get some grass seed down on. So the neighbors logged their property, their larger logs, and they had some logs in here, and then we took out the stumps and threw it in there. And so and the animals hadn't had access to here until fairly recently, so this was just blackberry briars growing up and everything. So this was fairly recently blackberries, the whole thing. As you come up here, you can see blackberry vines and stalks, but they're all chewed down. Let's continue across here. So I'll be throwing some seed down here in just a minute. But here's one of the few sections of blackberries left as they got access to this. There you can see this is what happens to blackberry bushes when you put goats in there. These are old established blackberries with large canes in there, and they will not eat the woody canes. Everybody's like, oh, the goats will eat blackberries all the way to the ground. Well, that's not completely true. I have Nigerian dwarf goats, so you can see down here lower, they walk in and what they can reach, they eat all the foliage off. And as you get higher, it's hard for them to get it. But you might also notice in here that the stalks are walked down. They'll walk them down eventually. They'll walk all these down in the winter when there's less foliage, and they'll push these to the ground and they'll get all the leaves. It will be gone. But you can see down here on the ground, it's just kind of bare dirt because this had been all shaded out by the blackberry bushes. So we're going to be getting grass seed in here today, and then this will start growing up. So you can see here again how they've knocked this all down. So as I was saying, the goats don't eat the heavy woody stalk that's left from the old growth, but what they'll do is they'll eat all the foliage down, and then when the new leaves come out, they'll eat all that off, and pretty soon the roots don't get any nutrients or any sunlight energy, and so they can't keep growing, and then the plant gets weaker and weaker. And over a few years, even if we don't come in here, there will be no more blackberry bushes in here. What Larry and I both like to do on our properties, though, is once they eat them down to this, like you see over here. So you can see this is a big blackberry patch where they've walked the stalks down and they're eating everything. Once they get the plants down to about this point, we like to come in here maybe with a weed whacker and knock the stems off. And then next year, the roots are still in the ground and the new shoots will come up out of the ground, but those are like candy. Even the stalks, when they come out of the ground, they're soft and supple, and they're like candy to the goats, and they will eat them all away, and they will not let the plant reestablish new canes, as long as you have enough animals to keep it down. But I do currently. And so this patch of dirt will not be coming back in blackberries, but it'll be coming back in grass next year. Okay, so you can see the section that we're going to be putting in grass seed today. Again, I do not have nearly enough. I had a bag left over from last year's project that that seed will keep long enough and it'll grow. We probably need 4 times this. Okay, so I'm going to start spreading the seed in a minute. I normally have a hand spreader because I don't have something I can roll over the ground because it's too rough ground in this territory. I didn't find it this morning, but that's all right. I'm just going to take handfuls of seed and spread them out there. We're going to have to reseed this again anyway, but what I have, I'm going to put on the ground today and let it go ahead and get started growing, and hopefully we'll pick up in the next couple days some more seed. And when I say in the next couple days, right now is the perfect time to plant here. In September and October, the temperatures are great for establishing new seed. It's not super hot and we're starting to get rain. Those of you that follow the channel know I've been complaining about one of the driest summers ever out here, but we had a little bit of rain, not much yesterday, but the forecast calls for the next 4 or 5 days to have rain showers. And so we'll get good moisture in the ground. It's going to be a little bit cool for germinating seed, but then as the rain showers go away, we're going to have highs in the low to mid 70s for a few days, and then it'll start growing. And so October will be a really good month for starting grass. It's not going to get burned up from the heat, and there's going to be moisture in the ground where we don't have the ability to irrigate. So this is the perfect time to throw grass seed over the eaten down blackberry property and just let the grass start growing so the sheep and goats can thrive on it. I think I have green. I don't have any green. It's grass seed, everyone. It's just grass seed. Here you can see a couple of goats working through the part that they've already eaten most of the leaves off, but the blackberry bushes are growing some small leaves again, starting to bud out, and the goats are coming back and eating it off. This is what I was talking about when I say they can't go through photosynthesis and gain energy from the sun because the leaves keep getting picked off as they try to grow back. Yeah, show us how you do your job. There, she chewed this end of the cane right off. And her baby's cute. The beauty of these goats, you can see that this countryside is a little bit steep and rocky. We're not running tractors up and down this to clear it. The goats go up and down it. The sheep eat similarly, but if you look at the sheep, they're more down with their head down, getting the grass that's on the ground. They will go in and eat some of the blackberries. There you see one off in the distance working some of the blackberries, but they prefer more grass. Okay, let's walk down to the lower elevation of the second paddock. Like I'm on the fence line. The goats and sheep run both sides of this because the gate is open. But when I said the blackberries grow like crazy around here and we're always working on this, this is the reality of the situation. So you can see my fence where they're fenced in, it's brown grass right here. And then on the other side of the fence, which is getting beaten down, I need to be careful. I need to get a hot wire on here because the goats are trying to lean on the fence and eat it. But these are the blackberries. This is what it looks like, this hillside, when you don't have goats. And this is what it was looking like here until we put goats in there and they just started eating away everything. And we just threw grass seed over it, and over time it went from this to this. Now again, this is dry ground right now because I have brown grass right now, but in a week or two after the rains come, this is going to be all nice and green again up here, and this is not. So what's going to happen here though is, this is the same neighbor that has this. He just asked me, he said, will you put more fence in and have your goats and sheep clear this property? So I brought my excavator up a few weeks ago and cleared a trail just to see what kind of slope we have. But I'm going to bring we are going to fence this in. He's going to pay for some of the fencing, and I'm going to pay for some of the fencing. And I'm this hillside, you can tell the contours are not easy to put a fence where the goats aren't going to get over or under or whatnot. So I'm going to bring an excavator in and blade a straight line down there so it's not going up and down, up and down. And so we can put a fence down there. It's going to go around the corner and back up there. We're probably going to pick up a little more than 1 more acre, and we're going to do that here soon. They're going to be running out of grass, and towards the end of October here, the sheep will have eaten most of it down, and it's going to quit growing in November. But these leaves are going to stay on these blackberries for all of the winter, and if they have access to this all winter long, they are just going to mow down on this. Hopefully I get the fence done. I'll take some before video and some after video of what this blackberry patch, this acre of blackberries looks like. So we're coming back to where I feed the goats in front of the barn and the sheep. Part of the reason I need more pasture is with this contoured hill, I was able to cut just a small barn out of the hillside and put it there. I do plan to expand it off to the side, at least a shed roof, to keep more hay. But in the top of this gambrel barns are amazing. This is a very small barn, but I've got 40 bales of hay up there. But my goal is to, between access to the new blackberries and the pasture that's existing, I'm going to have my animals make it on 40 bales of hay this winter. I might have to buy a few more, depending on how quickly grass and blackberries start growing next spring. All right, so there you have it, the story of how I'm going to increase my pasture and my production. Getting some grass seed in today because the timing is right. The goats and the sheep are getting the blackberries down, and soon I'll have more grass growing all over this hillside, and I'll be able to increase my herd. My herd was the largest it had ever been last spring when I was up to 23 goats. I got rid of a lot of goats to make room for sheep. This is the first year of sheep, and I've got breeding stock in here, so I'm going to have much more next year, so I want to increase the pasture. But right now I have enough, and things are going really well with combining my sheep and goats. I haven't had many issues. The only issue I've had at all is my goat Buck, which is 5 years old, was keeping my my young ram from breeding the sheep when they went into heat. So I had to pull him away so that the ram could do his job. He's young and passive. He'll get more aggressive over the years, and he'll get much bigger than my Nigerian dwarf goat, so that won't be an issue anymore. But the sheep and goat are happily cohabitating right now, and we're doing really well. Thanks for joining me on the Flanagan Homestead, where Christmas trees are my business, teaching and cleaning horticulture is my job, and outdoor projects are my passion. Hope to see you again soon. Be blessed, everyone.